The second company that I was involved in that was a startup, there was a gentleman who invested in that company. His name was Stephen Fleming. And Stephen and I continued to keep in contact with each other. And I had heard that he had moved to Georgia Tech, which was absolutely of no interest to me. I mean, I was not going to work in academia. And I continued to do my consulting. And Stephen and I met for lunch one day, and he was telling me about all of the things that were going on at Georgia Tech, and I could not believe it. It was so interesting to me that it wasn't just people in labs, heads down. I mean, the work that was making an impact on a daily basis just blew me away. So he said, I think that I have a job for you. You remember Dr. Bronstein? I was like, oh, I loved Dr. Bronstein. And Dr. Bronstein was a gentleman who had owned a company. We were friendly competitors. And I always would say that if I was going to compete against anyone, it was not him, because he was fantastic. And he was a charmer. And I did not want to have to compete with him. And also a brilliant man. He was an MD, very successful. And he says, well, Dr. Bronstein's here. I said, you're kidding me. He says, well, you guys should go have lunch. So I went and had lunch with Mark, Dr. Bronstein, and he says, well, what job did Stephen talk to you about? And I told him. He's like, oh, no, you don't want to do that job. I said, that's what I said. He said, but I've got the perfect job for you. And he tells me about this job, and I said, it sounds wonderful, because it's an opportunity for me to use my industry knowledge in a totally different culture. And although there will be a little bit of a clash of the culture, I could see how ultimately it could be a huge success. He said, well, there's only one problem. The job doesn't exist. And I said, well, that's a problem. But Georgia Tech made it work, and 6 months later, they offered me the job that we had discussed, and it's been wonderful. It's been rewarding. I feel like I've worked my entire life to end up here.